And welcome to Crash Media Paranormal. My name is Craig, and this is my friend.
Ashley?
And tonight we're going to be talking about the witching hour, something a little bit different. And we'll be with you right now. And we're back. So, Ashley, how was your week?
It's been good, busy, but good.
I know how that is. We're ending in school, so I have my senior shirt on today because I am senior class sponsor, and the best, coolest senior class sponsor that there is. So.
Yeah.
So last week we talked about cursed art, and that
Mhm.
was sort of my idea for the cursed art because I love art and I love curses, so sort of work together. But tonight, Ashley had an idea about the witching hour. Tell us a little bit about your thought processes there, Miss Ashley.
Well, okay, so this is something that's been featured in movies. It's a common claim at paranormal locations. If you've ever lived in like a haunted house, you probably have experienced this waking up at 3 a.m. or just experiencing things like paranormal activity at 3 a.m. And so that's kind of like coined the term, the witching hour, because there's so much paranormal activity and even lore, different things, beliefs that kind of revolve around the witching hour. And I thought that might be an interesting thing to discuss because I know I've experienced very strange things that commonly occur at that hour.
Right.
And it is something that's featured through movies and paranormal investigations. So I thought maybe we can kind of delve into that and discuss what is it about the witching hour that is so significant with, like, paranormal activity.
Right. Yeah. I know I've seen it in horror movies. I know we've been on investigations at 3 a.m. many times. And, it's almost like a phenomenon sometimes just to wake up at 3 a.m. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of lore around that. I don't know if it's some kind of body clock issue, but yeah. What about horror movies and literature? What have you seen about 3 a.m. in horror movies and literature?
Um, well, one thing that really started to stand out to me, like when I was younger, is I grew up in a haunted house, and
Mhm.
that's one thing that was very common. We'd wake up at 3 a.m., things would be happening. Of course, things happen when it's not 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
but it became, kind of like a common occurrence to wake up at 3 a.m. and something happened. Well, it wasn't until I got a little bit older and then started seeing it like in movies and even talked about on paranormal shows. Um, and I started to think, wow, okay, so I'm not the only one who's experienced this. There's got to be something to it. If you think about certain movies like the Amityville Horror, that's one that features them waking up to paranormal activity at 3 a.m.
Hmm.
I've seen lots of movies where it features 3 a.m. things will happen. That's when, like, all in movies, that's when like the bad stuff would start to happen. And as soon as you'd see somebody wake up in a horror movie at 3 a.m., you're like, "Oh yeah, something bad's about to happen."
Exactly. And like on the Amityville Horror, I just reread the book about 3 months ago. It was right when we were doing Old Harriman Hospital. So I was reading
Mhm.
the book during Old Harriman Hospital. And so Ron DeFeo killed his entire family in Amityville, New England, or Amityville, New Jersey. And and it is said that happened right at 3:15 a.m. So George Lutz would wake up. He's the man who bought the house from the estate of the DeFeos and stayed there for 28 days. And he would wake up supposedly at 3:15 a.m. One time, waking up at 3:15 a.m. and hearing a full marching band downstairs, which is interesting. Not uh,
Yeah.
that was also made famous by the Warrens. So they investigated there. So there's a lot of lore around 3:15 a.m. when it comes to the Amityville horror. So that's pretty
Mhm.
interesting. That is pretty interesting.
Yeah. and I question things like, okay, well, is 3 a.m. so, or at least seems so significant because of movies and because of the way stuff like that portrays it.
Yeah.
However, I know, and I'll share some of my personal stories in a little bit. I know that's been one big thing that has always kind of stood out. And so I've experienced very strange things revolving around that time. So there's something to it. But, also we do have to take into account, like how media and movies, things like that can make us think about something. So maybe it's not a scary hour, but we're going to think of it as scary hour because of horror movies, you
Yeah.
know.
And when you think about it, 3 a.m. is a weird time anyway because it's sort of at that cusp of really late and really early. So it's like
Mhm.
literally right in that, if you stay up late, you stay up till 3 a.m. If you get up early, you get up at 3 a.m. or, 2
Yeah.
a.m. and 4 a.m., so it's just this weird time of existence. Everything's
Yeah.
quiet. I wake up at 4:30 most mornings, and it's like the world is peaceful, the world is quiet, but I'm not ready to wake up 3 a.m.
Yeah. I'm getting our chat pulled up over to the side and
Okay.
Jeremy says hello.
Jeremy, how's it going? Hope all is well. But yeah,
Yeah.
you said okay. You said you've had some experiences at 3 a.m. Can especially when you were a kid. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so okay, so the house I grew up in, I refer to it as the Alberta house.
Mhm.
And if yeah, y'all I've mentioned it on podcast episodes before, but if anybody's new, the Alberta house is the house I grew up in. And yeah, we had this was like back in like the 80s and 90s before, paranormal shows really
Right.
got big and everything. But we had a lot of paranormal activity. But one common occurrence, we would wake up either at 3 a.m., 3:04, 3:15,
Hmm.
sometimes between like 3 and 3:30. We'd always wake up and something would happen.
Hmm.
But like I said before, paranormal activity would happen all through, the day, but specifically very strange things would happen at 3 a.m. And I'll get some more into like the specifics in a minute, but I wanted to share something.
Okay.
So one thing that I wrote, sorry, I'm trying to get it situated. Um, so I used to write a lot, drawing or writing or whatever. And so this is a little book that I made back when I was a kid. So my mom actually did the handwriting because
Oh,
I was real little,
yeah.
and but she I would just write, and so I would write about our ghost, and so she kind of took this story that I wrote, and this is just like a little kid story, so it's not an actual account because on this one the ghost goes to Disney World and stuff. But
As they do. Hey,
yeah,
I've been at the Haunted Mansion. It's appropriate.
yeah, yeah. But this is based on the ghost in our house. And when we were talking about the witching hour, one thing that I remembered is writing about 3 a.m. And so this kind of shows you, this back in like the early 90s when I wrote this. And um, right here on this very first line on this page, it says, at exactly 3 a.m., a noise woke me. And so I'm going to see if I can show you this right here.
Mhm.
It might be backwards on here, I don't know, but exactly at 3 a.m. That's just to show you that even like back then, like that was a just a common occurrence, something so significant that I actually wrote it down.
Hmm.
And so yeah, a lot of stuff would happen. Just a couple of things off the top of my head. I remember there was one night, my mom said she woke up at like 3 a.m. She heard talking in the kitchen. So we lived in like the house itself was like one of those ranch style houses. So, very small, had, a hallway from like the kitchen. From the kitchen, it had a hallway down the rooms on each side. So if somebody's talking in the kitchen, you can hear them down the. So anyway, she heard some talking. She'd get up and she'd go in the kitchen, and there would be no one there, and she'd go back to bed, and she would continue to hear it, things like that. We had a little black and white television, so like one of those teeny tiny televisions,
Yeah.
um in the kitchen. One night she woke up 3 a.m., went in there, that little TV was on. It was mostly like static. It would pick up a full, it had those little rabbit ear antennas. It'd pick up a couple of local stations. She went in there, it was on, like just the white noise.
Hmm.
And she went to unplug it and it was unplugged.
Hmm.
And so it's weird things like that. Um, yeah, throughout my childhood, like growing up, we would always wake up at 3 a.m. Sometimes we'd feel something tapping us on the shoulder,
Hmm.
wake up, it'd be 3 a.m. Um, so I've got a lot of stories from that house, but just it's strange that so much would happen at 3 a.m. to the point that made me, it really kind of triggered a reaction and a curiosity when I started seeing that talked about in the paranormal community.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
The only thing that's really happened to me in my haunted house is the very first at 3 a.m. I mean, is the very
Mhm.
first night that I moved in. Like the very, very, very first night that I moved into the house. The first thing we did was get the bedroom set up. So that night, tucked the dogs into bed, went to bed, and I believe I've told the story before. I had like a little ghost in a bottle because it was right after Halloween. It was like November
Mhm.
1st that I moved in, or November.
Mhm.
It was that first week of November, and so it was just a little thing that I had in the kitchen, and I just put it on my dresser. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, it went off, and so you press the little plunger down, and it goes woo, makes all this noise. So it went off, and
Mhm.
it like I was like scared. I was like, "Holy crap!" And so I went over there, and I was like, "Okay, it's fine. Batteries went dead. It's been out for a little while. It's good." So I got just back to sleep. Dun dun dun. Woo! It did it again. So I jumped up out of bed, turned it off, and threw it in the corner. Woke up the next
Mhm.
morning. I knew it was 3 a.m. because alarm clock. And
Mhm.
because I literally had to go to work the next morning. I moved in on a Sunday, and I and the next morning was Monday, and I had to go to work. And
Mhm.
so um, next morning I woke up, and there it was. It was on the floor, turned off, and I set it back up, turned it on, never went off again. Like, it
Mhm.
was only that night twice, and it was just they were telling me, "Hey, who are you?" I don't know what it
Yeah.
was, but that happened around 3 a.m., and that's the only thing that I can recall that has
Mhm.
happened around 3 a.m. in my house. And that was 9
Yeah.
years ago, so
Mhm.
but we will be talking about sleep paralysis in a little bit, and, I do have experiences with that, so
Mhm.
we'll talk about that momentarily.
Yeah.
Alright, let's see. Um, what do you think are the reasons for this fascination with the witching hour with 3 a.m.?
Okay, so there's, you have like the origins of like the lore and like even religious beliefs and things
Mhm.
like that. Like in a lot of religious beliefs kind of go back to saying like 3 a.m. is like mocking the Trinity,
Yeah.
so it's, and so they call it like the devil's hour. Um and things like that. I don't necessarily think it's like a the devil's hour or anything like that. I think that my own personal like theory is like think about like cycles. So like the moon has its cycles.
Yeah.
Even the sun has its cycles. The earth has cycles. Even the human body has cycles. And so if you think about it like maybe the veil that separates the spirit realm from like the human realm, everything has cycles, and you could, even the veil could have cycles so that at some points it's thinner
Mhm.
than at other points. And so at maybe 3 a.m. the veil is thinning and it's kind of like going through that cycle, and it's easier for spirits to reach through that a little bit, communicate a little bit more, or be more active and just interact with our realm a little bit more.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like my thought is I don't feel like there's anything like evil or mocking about it. I feel
Yeah.
like it could just be the thinning. I mean, a lot of it has to do with even like the atmospheric changes, moon cycles, things like that can spike at paranormal activity.
Right.
And I think all those things can affect the veil. And I think we are kind of separated between like that veil. And I do believe at some points it's thinner than others, even religions. And even I think the Pope, the Vatican recently said, I didn't see it, but I've heard about it. Said um, made a statement about the veil is thinning at the moment, and so even
Interesting.
like on that side of it, they kind of acknowledge that. And I'm not Catholic though, so I don't know a whole lot
Yeah.
about that. But to me, that's my thoughts on it. That it could just
Well,
be an easy time for them to communicate.
yeah, and that makes as much sense as a religious answer because as a person that's not very religious myself at all, when I hear mocking of the Trinity, I'm like, where did y'all get that from? It's sort of, I don't want to say silly, but you watching the shows and almost everything. Oh, it happened 3 times, so it's a mocking of the Trinity. It's like, really, really,
Hmm.
So I'm a little
Well, even
skeptical about that, and
yeah.
that's partially because I don't believe in demons. I'm not very religious, uh, so I've never really gone down that path of, oh,
Mhm.
it's mocking the Trinity. But like you said, we don't know. Could be a thinning veil. It could just be, like I said earlier, that time between the days. That time between very late and very early. It's just a
Mhm.
very weird time of the 24
Yeah.
hour cycle.
Yeah.
Who
And
knows?
even someone like me, so I don't consider myself religious. I am
Mhm.
very spiritual. And
Right.
so
Right.
but even someone like me, I'm skeptical of that too, of just claiming something is evil or
Mhm.
whatever. And so but yeah, and that's why I'm like, we can't just jump to conclusions that, oh, something is bad just because some people say it is,
Right.
or media's made it out to be, or whatever.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Um, So what do you think some things that could cause this phenomenon? We talked about, perceptions of it, but what are some reasons that you think sort of historically has led to this determination or this phenomenon? What do you think?
Hmm. Well, one thing could be stories
Mhm.
like such as the Amityville horror. Did he really kill his family like at 3? Was that factual, or is that
I think it is. I think that is factual.
okay? I mean, if you think about it, because that's not just specific to his that haunting though.
Mhm.
That
Right.
AM, it's a wide range of um, claims and stuff like that around it. But supposedly he was hearing voices, things like
Yeah.
that. So something could have been affecting him at that time to make him do these things. I don't know, but things like that, especially a big story like that. Um, is one thing that really I don't want to say like puts the idea in like people's heads that so like if you're at a haunted location and you're experiencing paranormal activity like throughout the night, but then also at 3 a.m. you experience the activity, you
Yeah.
can't just say, oh, it's
Oh,
because it's 3 a.m.
right, right, right.
But you're going to focus on that a little bit more, be like, oh, that something big just happened because it's 3 a.m. But and I think that to me it's just like the claims in general, there's so many claims at 3
Mhm.
a.m. I've experienced things at 3 a.m. So I don't know what even causes that phenomenon except for something actually being valid about it,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this. As a paranormal investigator, have you ever been on a location where all of a sudden things started jumping off around like 3 a.m.? Can you think
You
of
know,
any
yeah.
instances?
Interestingly enough, I would say no, but I think the reason for that is because normally when we're on ghost hunts, we've packed up and left by then because we get sleepy.
Well, yeah, I mean, here lately, yeah, but back in the day, back when we were
Yeah.
not old, and we didn't have a firm bedtime, we were up till sunrise. Waverly
Yeah.
Hills Sanatorium, we were investigating until the sun came up. Literally, we sat
Yeah.
on top of Waverly Hills and watched the sun come up from the Dead Children's Playground. Dead Children, that I just did a short on that from the children's playground
Yeah.
upstairs. Um,
Mhm.
I just did a short on the Dead Children's Playground like this morning, so that's in
Mhm.
my head. But I can tell you, I have had experiences around 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
One was at Waverly Hills Sanatorium and in the death tunnel. I am going to get that audio from a friend of mine, from Liz, um, of what sounded like a train car just coming right through us. I'm going to, I don't have it. I've looked everywhere, but I know he's got a copy, so I'm going to get a copy of it. I don't like talking about something if I can't like show you or let you hear it, but that happened around 3 a.m. Also, the time we were run out of Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. You weren't with us
Yeah.
back then, but that was the time we literally left around 3 a.m. because of everything that was happening. That was just
Mhm.
total insanity, which I'm going to talk about on our next week's episode, I believe. So,
It'll
about
be
things.
not next week, but the week after
Oh,
that
the week
when we
after
do.
that. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Mhm.
I will talk about that because that is an experience that I had there, but we were run out. There was so much activity going on,
Mhm.
and we were at the point of not knowing whether it was people, whether it was ghosts, but we couldn't figure out how it could be people, but we'll talk about that. But that did happen at 3 a.m., and around 4 a.m., we were headed back to Birmingham. So, very, that's the only two things that, thinking about this throughout the day, that's the only two instances that I can think of during an investigation where 3 a.m.
Mhm.
has been significant. But our listeners and our viewers, if you have had something that's happened around 3 a.m., uh, let us know. Put it in the comments. Let us know. Send us a TikTok, video, anything.
Yeah. And I will say this too, and this is something also when we do our Old South Pittsburgh Hospital
Mhm.
episode recap, I'll talk more about. But I just want to mention, like, okay, so while we were at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, I didn't, experience like a spike or anything at
Right.
3 a.m. I think
Right.
we're probably pecking up around then. But when I left, so I haven't 3 a.m. is something, like I said, that happened a lot at the house I grew up in, experiences around that time.
Mhm.
But through the years, it's not something that, I don't wake up, like in the house I'm in now, I don't wake up at 3 a.m. having activity and stuff. But after we left Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, and again, I'll talk more about this in detail when we do the recap, but I did have something that kind of um, followed me home kind of and for a while. I think it was about 2 months, like, it was about 4 weeks when I mentioned it to you.
Mhm.
So, yeah, not too much. So it was about 4 weeks after we left there. I was, um, I didn't get a solid night's sleep. I was
Yeah.
up every single night at 3 a.m., either 3 a.m. or, like, 3:15 or something like that. Um, and I'll explain, like, what would happen during that time on the recap, but it was so bad that I was, like, exhausted during the day because I wasn't getting any
Yeah.
sleep at night,
Because you were telling me
and
about that.
yeah, and I'll also explain later what I had to do to kind of, like, cleanse that to
Mhm.
get rid of it, and then after that night after I kind of went through this, like, cleansing thing, I finally slept, and it hasn't woken me up anymore since, but there was definitely why was I waking up at 3 a.m.?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
in the conditions that what that was happening, and there was something going on, something causing that. But I mean, it could also um kind of like going into like the next part, we're gonna like talk about like the psychological and
Mhm.
things like that about 3 a.m. It, is there subconsciously my brain was waking me up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
But there was things happening too that make me think that something was going on. But, kind of moving forward into like the psychological parts of it, sleep patterns, waking up feeling vulnerable. When you wake up from sleep, especially just when I was waking up from a dead sleep and things like happening, everything, I would wake up like so scared. But
And disoriented, probably.
yeah, but even if I, let's say, just on a regular night, no haunting or attachment or anything like that, but you when you wake up in the middle of the night, you're kind of disoriented. It takes your brain a minute to catch up to things,
Right.
and so to to even realize you're awake or whatever, you might feel vulnerable.
Yeah,
You might
very.
feel yeah, a little disoriented, and so there are psychological effects on that. You might be feeling some fear that is not like warranted. You're just, your body might feel these things and there's no reason that like a ghost or something waking you up, um, you know, could even kind of lead into like the sleep paralysis,
Right.
things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and as a person who has throughout my life had sleep paralysis, it's definitely disorienting.
Yeah.
Um, I love this little picture that we have up here. This is
Our
what it
visual
says.
representation of a sleep
Exactly.
paralysis.
Because
Yeah.
that is very, very accurate as to what you feel, what you see. Sleep paralysis is no joke. Anyone who has suffered from it knows that it will literally scare the mess out of you. I believe the first time I had sleep paralysis, and again, this happens at any time during the night, but it could be very commonly associated with 3 a.m. with the witching
Mhm.
hour. But it is definitely it's scary. You are awake, you're aware, but your brain is still dreaming, your body is still in that paralyzed state of sleep. Um, it
Well, and
everything.
you're, yeah, it's a
Yeah, it's
medical
a medical
thing.
thing. It's
Yeah.
the way that it's been described is your body is still releasing that sleep hormone, so your body
Mhm.
is frozen. When I have it, it's a tingle. It's a tingling from head to toe, and you're like, okay, I'm seeing shadows, I'm seeing people, someone's around me, someone's near me. It's that sense of presence. Someone is there, and someone is talking to you, or someone is looking at you. A lot of people see a man in a hat, the Hat Man. So a lot of people have reported the Hat Man. I see someone. I've alien abductions. I've felt like some small little things were just surrounding my bed, but it's that tingle, and I hear an audible hum every time that I have it.
Mhm.
It's a very audible hum, and then you fight yourself to try to wake up. You just wake.
Yeah.
You're just like wake up, wake up, wake up. You've got to wake up,
I
and you're
hate
trying to
that
jump.
feeling. Yes, it's awful.
Right, but the weirdest thing for me, and I don't know if it's just me or if anyone else has experienced this with sleep paralysis, but after I am awake, once I'm fully awake, this side of my face is burning. Only this side of
Mhm.
my face, and
It's those nerve endings
yeah,
waking up.
but I don't understand why it's not this side. It's only this side of my face is like on. It's
Yeah.
like I can hold my hand up and feel the heat coming off of my face.
Mhm.
And that's one thing I just don't understand. There's a
Mhm.
great documentary called The Nightmare, and I
Mhm.
believe it's on Freevee or Tubi right now, but it will scare the pants off of you, and it's all
Mhm.
about sleep paralysis. But that is a
Yeah.
highly recommended movie to watch.
I don't experience it too much, like, during the night, like that night sleep, but if I take a nap, I experience it almost every time I
Oh,
take a
really?
nap. Like, a day nap,
Yeah.
I'll wake up and I hate that feeling, and it's like I'm laying there, and it's like I know I'm awake and my body will not move, and I'm trying
Mhm.
so hard to wake up, and, oh, I hate that
Just
feeling. It's
trying to like jump, just trying to make a movement, just to
trying
wake
to
yourself up.
yeah,
Yeah,
trying to
trying to
speak,
speak.
feel
Yeah,
yourself
trying to
trying
speak.
to
Yeah,
yes.
it is.
Now, there might be a time or 2 that, someone has experienced someone actually a spirit or something like heavy on them or holding them down or like
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
Most of the time,
Incubus.
sleep
Yeah.
paralysis is a medical condition, and everybody can experience it. It's
Right.
not like a condition, it's a
Yeah.
medical phenomenon that anybody can experience and most people have at some point.
Yeah.
Your yeah, your body, your muscles go into everything goes into a sleep
Mhm.
while your brain is asleep. And if your brain wakes up, sometimes it takes those muscles a minute to kind of get um that alert that hey, we're
Mhm.
awake. And so those muscles you can't move because your muscles have not woken up yet. And so
Exactly. And some people experience it as kids.
mhm,
And then once they reach adulthood, they never have it again. Some people have it throughout adulthood. I started in my
mhm,
20s, and through my 20s and very early 30s, it happened a lot. But since then, it's very rare. It doesn't
yeah,
happen near as often now. The famous painting of the succubus and the incubus, the incubus sitting on the lady's chest, comes directly from sleep paralysis.
mm,
um, I don't have that visual with me, but it just came into my brain. It's like, oh, I
yeah.
should have got that for this broadcast. But
Well, our visual could be succubus
yeah,
or incubus. Incubus is the
incubus.
male,
Yeah,
right?
incubus
Incubus.
is the male, succubus
Succubus
is the
is the
female.
female.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and that's where that or is reported. That's where those imagery comes from. That experience. So it's a very human experience.
Yeah.
Most
And if
people will have
anybody
it.
wants if anybody wants to see the sleep paralysis demons that I generated earlier, go to TikTok
Those were
and
hilarious.
check out the I was using AI and I was typing in prompts like, scary, horror, creepy, and it was giving me like people with a sheet, the sheet with the little eyes cut out, like standing by a bed, like, and then one guy is like singing to his sleep paralysis ghost, and so yeah, we'll have to
Those are
go and
great.
check that out on TikTok because it was pretty funny. I was like, really, I can't generate something scary, and but yours was good. Yours was good.
Well, my first ones were a little not safe to show.
Yeah.
They were interesting.
That's why I kinda laughed a little bit when we mentioned the succubus versus, the incubus being female or not, because it's like, it kinda generated a
It's a
little,
this is a family
uh
show, so we're not gonna say
yeah,
what it generated, but it was
AI needs to chill a little bit on what it's on
oh.
what it's generating, but
Now, I
anyway.
am curious to know, from our viewers if anyone has, experienced sleep paralysis, because like I said, sleep paralysis is no joke, it is scary. I have not seen The Hat Man, but I have seen The Little People. So I've
Well, you think
definitely
about the Hat
experienced that.
Man,
Mhm.
that was actually okay, on The Haunting of Hill House, there one of
You're
the
right.
children, one of the siblings
Yeah.
experienced the Hat Man. And
You're
that
right, I
is
remember that.
the reason why they included the Hat Man's character is because that is it's kinda like Slender Man, even though
Mhm.
Slender Man was debunked as like a hoax,
Right.
but it's kinda like that. It's a common description of
Yeah,
what people see and stuff, and so that's why they created that character.
yeah. That's really
So,
cool.
mhm.
But, this is a pretty, I like thinking about I rarely think about 3 AM unless I'm ghost hunting, and, but yeah, I'm gonna take notice anytime that I wake up at 3 AM or 3:15 from now on. But,
Yeah.
tell us what we have coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so next week we're going to be releasing our old South Pittsburgh Hospital episode.
Yay!
So we have a new episode coming. It'll be aired Wednesday, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. And so the way that YouTube works, also if you tune in like to the
Mhm,
premiere, we can be in the chat, like we can communicate like through the chat, and because it'll almost premiere like a live,
mhm,
and so it should have a chat that we can talk through, rather than just being posted. A premiere kind of allows you to do that, and but after that, the following week we'll have our episode recap here on Conversations with Crash. there's there's so much in our episode that I couldn't honestly include everything because we had so much experiences and so much evidence and stuff that we're trying to include in the episode.
Mhm.
So there's more we're going to talk about the following week on our podcast. And
Yeah.
so everybody needs to tune into that as well because there's a lot to discuss about the episode.
And of course, we're not going to be live on Conversations with Crash. Instead, we're going to have our live broadcast of Old South Pittsburgh. But yeah, tune in at 6 o'clock next Wednesday, 1 week from tonight, and join us in the chat and let us know what you're thinking.
Mhm.
Uh, Also, the week of our recap will be our season finale.
Mhm.
So we will be taking our hiatus from that, and we have a few investigations that were going on, and then we will be back with brand new episodes of Crash Media Paranormal. So we have
Mhm.
next week is live broadcast, then the next week recap, and then we go on a little hiatus. But we are still going to be posting our 1 minute ghost stories,
Mhm.
and we're about to show our next 1 minute ghost story. We have our world premiere of our 1 minute ghost story that will be uploaded as soon as we finish this broadcast. So,
Mhm.
without further ado, if I could talk, here is our world premiere of our newest 1 minute ghost story.
Welcome to Crash Media Paranormal with the tragic tale of Condi Cunningham. On the night of February 4th, 1908, at the Alabama Girls Industrial School, now the University of Montevallo in Alabama, a tragic incident unfolded. Condi Cunningham, a spirited 16-year-old, and her roommate were making hot chocolate in their dorm room using a chafing dish. In their haste to clean up after the curfew bell, they knocked over a bottle of alcohol they were using as fuel. Panic surged as Condi's nightdress ignited and she ran out of the fourth floor dorm room screaming for help. Condi suffered severe burns and died in the hospital 2 days later. To this day, residents of Main Hall claim to hear a young woman's desperate cries, her footsteps racing through the hallways. And then there's the door, the infamous wooden door of Condi's former room. Its screen revealed an eerie image, a girl's face ablaze. The university replaced the door, but the ghostly image soon reappeared. New doors came and went, but the image kept coming back. Eventually, the dorm room was sealed off with a metal door, but visit the Carmichael Library archives and you'll find the last door. Trace its grain and perhaps you too can glimpse the image of Condi's restless spirit.
All right, that was Condi Cunningham and the University of Montevallo's famous Ghost of Main Hall. Now we have investigated there. I don't believe you have. That was before you
Mm-mm.
joined the team, but we have investigated Main Hall. Um, all of the students were gone for, I believe, Christmas vacation, so we had run of the place. That's where we caught, which this was on some of our best evidences podcast, where we heard the man humming both times from the bathroom and one time from the hallway while we were setting up. But yeah, we had a lot of experiences in Main Hall. That was a fun investigation. And I have
Mhm.
seen the door in the library. So I've seen the door. I've been to they won't let anyone in the room. The room is sealed off. It's no longer, no one is assigned to that room. But the story is really tragic, but also, pretty cool because you can see the little flames if you look at the video that we just showed,
Yeah.
which will be on TikTok and it'll be on YouTube Shorts, it'll be on Instagram, it'll be on all of the socials here shortly. But
Mhm.
it's a really cool story and a really cool experience. So just
Yeah.
doing some research, I learned a few things about it. So
Mhm.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, also, even though we're going to be um, kind of like, like you said, this is the recap's going to be our season
Mhm.
finale of Conversations with Crash. We're still going to be pretty active like this summer, and so everybody still like tune in. We are, like Craig said, we're going to be posting our 1 minute ghost stories. We also have a couple of ghost hunts that
Mhm.
are coming up this summer that will be live streaming. And so at some point, through the summer, we're still going to be live streaming on here. And we'll make an announcement
Oh yeah.
before, like, when we're going to be live streaming. We're going to try to go live on TikTok a little bit too. So if you
Mhm.
don't follow us there yet, be sure to follow us there. We're going to continue posting,
Right.
stuff. We have a lot still going on, a lot to share. but then we'll come back with Conversations with Crash, new podcast episodes this fall. So
And also
you know,
new full episodes, full Ghost Hunt episodes. So
yeah.
we have a lot in store. So
Mhm.
I'm excited. We're going to have a very fun summer. It's definitely
Yeah.
going to be a fun summer.
Mhm.
But anything else you can add, Miss Ashley?
I don't guess so. Just be sure to tune in next week.
Mhm.
This episode, it was a 2-night investigation.
Oh, it was so much fun.
So much happened. We've got so much to share, and I can't wait. I just can't wait for people to see
Me
everything
either.
that we got. Like, it's crazy how
It's
much
going to be great.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful week and stay tuned next week and you're going to love it. All right.
Yeah.
Have a great week, Ashley.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos or want to be a part of our live investigations, hit the subscribe button. Also, if you have any ideas for future investigations or want to share your own paranormal encounters, please feel free to leave a comment or send an email to crashmediaparanormal@gmail.com.